Hi, this is Wayward Bill Chengelis, and welcome to What's Next. What's Next is a show about cannabis. For you of those who are uninitiated to the word cannabis, you might know it also as marijuana, ganja, weed, spleef, Joe, boo, you know all the words. It's about cannabis. Cannabis is a plant. It comes in 3 varieties: rudialis, sativa, and indica. It has a world of good and can save the world. We can make fuel out of it. We can make our clothing. We can use it recreationally. We can use it medically. It's time that cannabis comes to the forefront, and that's what this program's about. So I hope you enjoy What's Next.
Welcome to What's Next with Wayward Bill. Today's lighted up news is featuring cannabis clubs in Colorado. Before Amendment 64, we had marijuana radio, hemp hood lab, and if you were in the right spot at the right time, a few other party places that allowed smoking reefer. For medical patients, we had the High Times Cup 1 and 2 and the famous meet and greets, but you had to have your red card to participate. Today in Colorado, we have open to the public 21 years and older recreational cannabis clubs. In Colorado Springs, we have Studio 64 and Club 710. They have only the best buds, the best entertainment, and always the best people. You can like them on Facebook at Studio 64 and Club 710. In Lafayette, we have the Hive Co-op, the first cannabis-friendly coffee and tea shop. Here, you bring your own cannabis. It's a $5 cover charge and a 1 ounce limit of green. Don't forget your ID, and you do have to be 21 years and older. The owner has been quoted saying she wants the co-op to be a neighborhood gathering spot where people can unwind, have a cup of coffee, smoke a joint, and just be surrounded by good healing energy. I dare anybody to light it up anywhere, maybe even a public restroom. Just kidding. You didn't hear that from me. Save it especially for a cannabis club. Here in the Mile High, we have Club 64. Join us for the rest of the show as our scheduled guests, Chloe Villano and Rob Corry, will be speaking more about Club 64. We also have as a scheduled guest, Max Montrose and his undercover DUID video. Thanks for watching Lighted Up News. I'm Crystal. Stay tuned for your host with the most, Wayward Bill Chengelis. Smoke weed. It was like...
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Take 2. WMMJTA. Hold the mic. You want to hold the mic? Yeah. This is Leonard Freeling, and this is WMMJ TV. This is Leonard Freeling, and this is WMMJ TV. This is Leonard Freeling, and this is WMMJ TV. This is Leonard Freeling, and this is still WMMJ TV. Thank you. All right. Hey, I'm Rick T, WMMJ TV. I'm with
Brittany.
And I'm with
Kelly.
And you're watching
WMMJ TV.
They say that when you're facing extreme danger, your life flashes before you. If you think that's sad, consider facing it before you even have enough life to flash before your eyes. Car crashes are the #1 killer of children 1 through 13. Deaths and injuries can be prevented by using the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to know what is appropriate for each age and size.
With a rainbow on your face, I'm Gemma Star Buddha Bar, and you're watching WMMJ TV. Free the medicine, love and light, babes. Mwah.
Good evening. This is What's Next, and I'm Wayward Bill, your host. Tonight we're going to be talking about the driving under the influence of drugs law that's coming up in this upcoming session of the Colorado session brought on by Senator Steves from the West Coast. We're going to be showing a video that was made by Max Montrose, basically exposing a Fox driving school that they sent cannabis patients to try out driving simulators. The thing is, they put them on semi-driving simulators. And it's totally bogus. You'll enjoy the video. Max will be giving a little commentary during the video, and I hope you enjoy it, and we'll be discussing it afterwards. My guests this week are over here, Max Montrose, Chloe Villano, and Robert J. Corry. Hope you enjoy the video, and let's see what's next.
Colorado voters will decide if marijuana should be legalized. If it passes, marijuana would be regulated the same way as alcohol.
That's right, but right now there is no standard to determine if you're too stoned to drive while under the influence of marijuana. State lawmakers have proposed limits to set a standard, but many argue those tests wouldn't be accurate enough to determine impairment. Tonight, we're answering your questions by putting that proposed state standard to the test. Fox 31 Denver's Mark Meredith is live with the shocking results of our one-of-a-kind investigation. Mark?
Libby, as you know, it was just yesterday that state lawmakers voted down this most recent attempt that would regulate how much marijuana a driver out on Colorado's roads could have in their system. But there's no doubt that this is an issue that's not going away anytime soon, especially when it comes to how much is too much. That debate rages on.
Today, I am taking a driving simulation test for Fox 31 News after I take in some THC as a legal medical marijuana patient. I'm doing this to try to help prove a point that THC in your system is way different from having alcohol or other pharmaceuticals in your system, and it's something that needs to be taken a look at more seriously.
Will someone taking marijuana put themselves or you in danger on the road? We wanted to find out for ourselves. So we set up a test using a simulator, police officer, and a group of volunteers. Ranging in age from their early 20s to their mid-60s, our volunteers let us test not only their driving skills, but their THC levels both before and after taking their marijuana.
Got it.
I guess the reason why I'm telling you this and why I bought this little camera is because for some reason I've got this little funny feeling that Fox is going to edit this footage to a bias that's not going to be truthful for the cannabis community. And just in case, I'm going to try to film everything that they film so that if they do skew the reality of the situation with this driving test, that we can put the truth and the information out there. So this should be a pretty interesting and exciting day.
Just yesterday, Colorado lawmakers narrowly voted down a new law that would have made it illegal for a person to drive with a specific THC level known as Delta 9 concentration. If passed, any Colorado driver would have been considered impaired if they had more than 5 nanograms per milliliter of marijuana in their blood.
It's all variable on the person.
Sarah Nill is a phlebotomist who routinely checks for drugs in blood. Before we even started our driving test, a surprise. We found at least 2 of our volunteers would be considered impaired under the recently proposed state standard, even though they hadn't smoked or ingested marijuana all day.
So that I can go back to sleep, which is so much THC concentration that there's got to be more than 5 nanograms active Delta 9 in my system.
Meet Max, a 23-year-old eager to try our test, and even though he had not smoked his medical marijuana all day, the blood test shows he's already above that 5 nanogram milliliter proposed limit.
When I medicate, I actually come back down to what you would consider a more normal state. I would never advocate in a million years anyone to drive intoxicated on anything for any reason. Overall, I feel like I was a little more calm, a little more stable, and I felt like I drove a whole lot better that time.
Max may have already been considered impaired before he lit up. That first blood test came back at 6 nanograms. That's one above the previously proposed limit. But after smoking for us, that number increases 5-fold to 32 nanograms.
Somebody who smokes on a regular basis for a year is going to be able to handle more than somebody who doesn't.
So when I wake up in the morning and I'm no longer medicated, I've had a great rest of sleep, I get in my car and I get pulled over because my emission sticker hasn't been updated, and I have a pipe in my car that stinks because of the resin. The cop says, well, have you been smoking? I haven't. He tests my blood. Well, of course there's more than 5 nanograms in there. So are you going to send me to jail? Even though I had a green light, he crashed into me. Is that okay?
All right, we got it. We need.
This high-tech simulator will help answer that question, and the results may surprise you.
We do that driving test too, and it was ridiculous. I don't know. I don't know how that's an accurate simulator at all.
Did you do the driving test?
I did it. And
it didn't feel real at all, did it?
It didn't. Well, first of all, it felt like you were driving a truck, because I've driven big trucks like that.
You know why? Because it's a truck simulator.
Oh, it felt very weird. Did it make you motion sickness?
And it is for CDL. I mean,
yeah.
It's not for.
It's not for your driving. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
This is way different than my car.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was that, well, and for me, they were screwing around with me, and they kept throwing different things like wind at me and snow and shit like that.
In cars that like run out at
Yeah.
you. It's a simulator for devastation,
Yeah,
not
so
like
the worst case
regular
scenario.
driving. Even though I had a green light, he crashed into me. Is that okay?
All right, we got it. We need.
None of our volunteers put much faith in this simulator, but can you put faith in the Delta 9 law when some of our volunteers who admitted they were under the influence would pass with flying colors?
I think there should be another way to base it on, not a 5 nanograms, because it affects everybody so differently. I think there should be another way to base it on, not a 5 nanograms, because it affects everybody so differently.
The goal, of course, of any law is to protect yourself or others. None of our other drivers under the influence aced our simulator.
If the science is true that the U.S. Department of Transportation, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration did their report, this is a report that's been done in the U.S. for over 20 years. It concludes, as other countries do around the world, that the general conclusion is there is little, if any, evidence to indicate that drivers who have used marijuana alone are any more likely to cause serious accidents than drug-free drivers. To a large extent, the result from driving simulator and close quarters test corroborate the epidemiological findings by indicating that THC in single inhaled doses up to 250 milligrams has relatively minor effects on driving performance, certainly less than VACs in the range of 0.08.
Certainly was an interesting test. Were the people that took the test, were they surprised by the results?
They actually just learned the results with you in our audience as well as in our newsroom. We wanted to keep those results and show the test to make sure we were as fair and accurate with this one as possible. And I'm sure after seeing the story, they'll be just as surprised about who passed and who didn't.
The test itself was extremely inaccurate. The test was done at a school that tests truck drivers that drive 18-wheelers. So our trucking simulation was for an 18-wheel rig, and The steering wheel was humongous. It was like this big. The seat was huge. The pedals were like right next to each other, but on the far right instead of being like separated like they typically are. And looking for your opinion. They weren't looking for the facts. They weren't looking for information. They were just looking for, what is this test on this simulator going to conclude with medicated drivers? So I hope Fox portrays a decent truth of what happened today. Really hope they do. Because it would be really unfortunate if they didn't. I kind of suspect that they will.
You're watching WMMJ TV.
Yeehaw!
Welcome back, folks. We just watched Max Montrose's expose video from Fox News, combined with Fox News's video. Max, were you paid to carry that camera in there?
Absolutely not. In fact, I lost a little money purchasing the camera.
And you did it wholeheartedly as an activist, correct?
I knew Fox was not going to portray the truth, and I had to be prepared to show the truth no matter what.
That's great. And explain some of the things like your nanogram level.
So first of all, they tested us before and after our driving simulator by our blood. And what the phlebotomist proved was that I was at 6 nanograms before I smoked cannabis, and that had been 24 hours. So under the previously proposed 5 nanogram bill, I would have been over the legal limit 24 hours after I'd smoked my last time. And then when I did smoke, I was, I believe, within the 30s or 40 range.
That's amazing. And Rob, what can we do as activists to get a higher nanogram level off of Senator Steve King there of Grand Junction?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, this bill has come and been killed time after time, and you know, I think we need to fight this bill this time around, activists out there, because marijuana is not like alcohol as far as it affects you and impairment in driving. Putting a number on it is junk science. I mean, it's utterly junk science. And so we do have to fight this, and maybe we'll win again. It seems like God is probably on our side.
And can I point out a point on you saying junk science? The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which is a federal entity that does tests on driving, did a 20-year study on driving under the influence of cannabis. And in 1993, they concluded that it is impossible to determine a person's impairment based on blood plasma levels of THC. Everyone's different, every herb is different, and it affects everyone so differently. What Rob is saying is absolutely correct. You cannot have a blood level that determines this is what impairment means.
Now, this bill's coming up in the Colorado Senate again, and Rob just said that, you know, we all need to get out there and fight it. Now that we have Amendment 64, regulate marijuana like alcohol, everybody in this state that uses marijuana is now suspect, not just the medical marijuana patients. And it's, if you're going to follow the rules of A64 and not drive impaired, you need to participate in your government and help us crush this bill. We're going to talk a little more about it. What are your thoughts, Chloe?
I think that it's definitely an issue. I know they have the per se bill that's coming up that we're trying to fight, you know, which will give us a little bit more leeway. But I think scientifically, we really need to put out the research that's going to, in the end, tell us how these blood levels and how it's affecting each person individually. We're actually having a symposium on it on the 17th at Castleman's, so we'll have the Department of Transportation there, and that'll be interesting to hear.
And that's correct. At Castleman's down there at 2620 Walnut Street. On what date?
January 17th.
January 17th. our symposiums, we have an icebreaker. Normally beforehand, they start at 6 o'clock. The panel normally starts at 7, and we hope that you come down and participate and learn something about this DUID bill, because if you're a marijuana smoker, it is going to affect you.
Can I ask a question for Rob, Corey, and Chloe and the whole table? Here's my #1 question when it comes to the new THC DUI bill. I understand that cannabis being legal in the state of Colorado is a new thing, and why so many people are concerned about people having the freedom to use cannabis and then driving under the influence, and I understand that that's a pressing issue. My #1 question is, because the science proves that you can't determine it based on blood levels, what's the problem with the current situation with giving someone a roadside test and determining, you know, if someone should be allowed to drive a motor vehicle, why wouldn't you give them a motor skill test? Look, if someone is driving stoned and they reek of weed and a cop gives them a motor skill test and they can't pass, you know what? Throw them in jail. You shouldn't be able to drive a car. You're a danger to me, all of us.
Yeah.
But what happens when, you know, why can't there be a motor skill test that determines DUID like there is currently? If you get pulled over right now, cop smells herb, and he tests you, you can get a DUID today based off of these standards. Why are we wasting so much time, energy, and resources on this proposed bill? And this is the 4th year in a row this bill has been proposed. It's been demolished 3 times previously. And I think that's because our senators had their heads on straight, knew that the science didn't back it up, and we didn't have enough information. What's the problem with the current standard of determining DUID?
It is such a good question because, you know, the existing law is sufficient right now to protect the public, because I've tried these cases. People go to court and they are convicted sometimes with levels as low as 7, 4, 5 nanograms. That does happen. And then there are other cases I've tried where a person was acquitted with a level of 10 nanograms. And the bottom line is the evidence was the difference between a conviction and an acquittal, which is how it should be, because every other drug, with the exception of alcohol, but every other drug, there is no numerical value attached to it.
Right.
There's no number that says you've got this much OxyContin, therefore you're automatically impaired. Marijuana is that way. Marijuana is one of these types of drugs that affects everybody differently, and so the current law is more than enough to protect us. And unfortunately, the politicians just want another shot at marijuana. They think they get more votes that way. And you know, I hope that we can win this. And here's one last point I want to make about this. Even a losing battle on this bill has value, because I can tell you the first person who's prosecuted under this 5 nanogram bill, if it does become law, you know, any lawyer who represents that person is going to challenge the constitutionality of the 5 nanogram standard, because it's irrational and it bears no rational relationship to science, and it may be overturned. So everything you say in the Colorado State Senate or the Colorado House at a hearing becomes evidence in that constitutional challenge. So the battle itself is worth having, even if we think we're going to lose.
Have you heard, I just heard recently that Senator Kane has proposed that, going along with the 5 nanogram bill, that they're going to take out the per se, which takes out the fact that you're automatically stoned at 5 nanograms, and will give you the ability to do some sort of roadside test that you can either pass or fail, that in court might help you in the future say, look, you tested my blood, I'm at over 5 nanograms, but I passed a roadside test fine, am I impaired? Have you heard anything about that?
I have, and the way that's going to work is, well, first of all, it is a very small step in the right direction to take out the per se. But it would still say 5 nanograms you're impaired, then you have, you know, a rebuttable presumption to prove that you weren't impaired. So what it does is it shifts the burden of proof. You're guilty until proven innocent. You have to go into court and prove yourself innocent, that you are not impaired if you have over 5 nanograms. And I can tell you, the way it plays out in front of these juries, you give them a number, you give them the 5 number, they're going to latch right onto that because they're accustomed to the alcohol numbers, which maybe makes some scientific sense. I don't know about that, but you know, any number that you put a number on that 5 nanogram thing, it's going to cause problems. Innocent people are going to be convicted, and that's a tragedy.
Now, Max, I don't know whether William Breeze covered it or if it was Michael Roberts, But Fox blatantly denied any wrongdoing in this. How do you feel about that?
You can go on Fox's website and look at their rebuttal against my video, and I deliberated a slight rebuttal back, which was the fact that watch my video, and at minute 6:20 or 6:30, you'll see Mark Meredith say that people who admitted under the influence passed with flying colors on this test, and then 20 seconds, 30 seconds later on my video, he says, admitted under the influence, no one passed the test. He said both things. This test was not designed to test reality. This test was a trucking simulation that tested the most chaotic scenarios for someone trying to pass a trucking test. It was not a test for reality. It was not a test on cars. It was not a real test, and therefore it was pretty bogus.
Reality. You know what they say about reality? Reality is for people who can't handle good drugs.
I agree. Okay, moving along here. Now, Rob, with the new A64, basically public consumption is no longer, well, it's never been permitted, but now without the pot tickets, do you think that public consumption will become the new cash cow for the courts and the cops?
I doubt it, because public consumption is still a petty offense, and it's just not worth the police officer's time. So I think if you're blatant about it, you know, like you're walking down 16th Street Mall with an open beer, they might give you a ticket, just like if you're, you know, if you have a steaming joint in your hand. But I don't think they're going to spend a lot of time on it. You know, the people have spoken, and the police have received their message, with a couple of sad exceptions, but for the most part, they've received the message.
Now keeping on those lines and going back to the DUID bill, don't you think the cops would feel the same way? Or what are they going to have, mobile phlebotomists? I mean, is that going to become a new profession, that you have these mobile trucks alongside the road that come up and draw your blood?
Stick a needle in your arm? No, it's going to be the way it always is, where they bring you back somewhere and you get it. And it is pretty intrusive if you think about it. I mean, we should emphasize this in our state Senate and our state House. You know, this is the government sticking a needle into your veins.
And you have to do it.
And I know. And that's pretty intrusive. And
do you have to do it?
You have to do it.
Are you sure you have to do it?
To keep your driver's license.
To keep your driver's license.
Because if you refuse, it's an automatic year.
Suspension on your license.
You lose your license, and if you lose, you know.
You only have so long before they take it.
If you lose your license, you have a hard time living in Colorado.
Sure.
This is a car culture here, and you know that's a major penalty for a lot of working people.
So 2 questions. First of all, I heard that the Supreme Court at one time or another said something about the fact that it is too invasive of your persons to be sticked by a needle to determine this, and therefore it might be necessary to have a search warrant to be able to carry out what's a pricking, a test by blood.
Well, not to get too technical, the law says that having a driver's license is a privilege, not a right.
Sure.
So therefore the government can revoke that privilege if you don't give them your blood. But you know, the vampire analogy, I mean, this is the government like sucking my blood out of my body, and with no scientific reason to do so. It's pretty outrageous. I mean, we need to get in there and look these politicians in the eye and be like, you considered this bill 3 years in a row, and you shot it down 3 years in a row. You know, and it keeps coming out like a vampire, and like a vampire, you want to suck the blood out of my body. I mean, it.
But let's be realistic here. It's obvious our legislators aren't believing or utilizing the science which has been put forth. Therefore, let's be real. If us cannabis activists have to do something about this, I think the best thing to do, besides defeating the bill entirely and making them just aware of the fact that you can do a roadside test and determine if someone's impaired or not, and I think that's fine. But if they're not going to go that route, what we need to do is the nanogram limit must be raised, because as my video proved, I can be over 5 nanograms tetrahydrocannabinol delta 9 within 24 hours. So if the limit was 25 nanograms, I could be a medical marijuana patient, I could smoke my medicine, I could be intoxicated like I need to be, and then when the effect goes away, I'll still be over 5 nanograms, but guess what? I'm not intoxicated. I'm not a danger.
Right.
Can we not do that? Can we not like tap the legislators on the shoulder and be like, hey man,
Oh,
how
yeah.
about 25
I think you
instead
should
of
tell them
5? Because it's not reasonable.
I think you should tell them that, but I'm a little worried about suggesting any number because I think the idea of putting a number on it is junk science. I mean, honestly, there are people who have 25 nanograms who probably aren't impaired. There are patients who use large amounts of cannabis and they get significant benefits from it.
We have all these creams and all these edibles that people eat, and they make all these levels a lot higher.
Guess what? I'm a 10-year cannabis smoking veteran, and I'll be the first person to tell you I can smoke as much marijuana as I can physically take, and I don't feel like my balance or depth perception or timing is impaired. And the thing is let's take 1 gram of marijuana, let's split it in half. Let's give half to Chris Romer and half to me. Chris and I both smoke the same amount of cannabis. A phlebotomist takes our blood. Guess what? Chris and I are both over 5 nanograms, but we're at the exact same level. But because Chris Romer doesn't smoke marijuana, it's going to treat him like a half a gallon of vodka, and it's going to treat me like a cup of coffee.
I'd like
so
to
who's
see that
impaired?
test, by the
Who's
way.
impaired?
I would love to see that.
Can we not do this test? I'll volunteer. Look, Fox already got me once. Let's go.
You heard it here first. A challenge to Chris Romer.
Come on, Chris.
Smoke off.
Let's do it, buddy.
It's a smoke off.
That's right, Chris Romer. We're on you again.
You know, it's a great idea. Something has to be done. And I think that's what we have to do is we have to push for something like that.
Can I propose a very a risque idea?
Sure. What is it?
You know, I've seen other studies that suggested that the U.S. federal government paid for this THC DUI study to be conducted in Holland, where it's legal for drivers to use cannabis in a controlled test. And what they figured out was that compared to sober, drunk, and stoned drivers, technically under their test conditions, stoned drivers performed better than sober and drunk off of 2 main reasons. They, 9 times out of 10, drive slower and with a further distance of a car in front of them. Therefore, there is science out there that suggests that in some cases, for people who have developed a tolerance, it might make you a safer driver than not. What about that?
That is the federal government.
Yeah, and from what I understand, Germany has a 15 nanogram limit for their blood draws for cannabis.
And hasn't Washington State already passed a 5 nanogram?
Yeah, that came in Initiative 502, and they have a 5 nanogram blood draw. It was one of the things that they used to sell the law. You know, and also the fact that they can't grow like Coloradans can.
That's true.
Well, that was one of the reasons most people were against it in Washington, because of that 5 nanogram rule.
Right.
So there was a whole no on 502.
When I was
But not enough. Majority rules.
Well, legalization, DUI. You know, it's kind of like.
When I was in middle school and high school, they were.
Okay, guys, we need to take a short break here, and we'll be right back with you. Back,
Have
folks.
you heard of Coloradans for Cannabis Patient Rights? Do you know we are Colorado's only medical cannabis assistance program? With our team of sponsors, we offer a comprehensive sliding fee scale for medical cannabis patients on low and fixed incomes. For a list of sponsors, please visit us at www.c4cpr.org or leave a message at 719-271-8430. Also, join us on Facebook, Coloradans for Cannabis Patient Rights.
Okay, we're back, folks. We've been discussing the Colorado DUID bill and Max Montrose's expose for Fox. We're going to move along here now, and we're going to talk about the new cannabis clubs that are springing up around Colorado. Chloe Villano and Mr. Robert J. Corry here. We're the first ones out of the gate because the poor guy down in Del Norte at the White Horse Inn, his landlord pulled the lease. Unfortunately for him, he caused a little too much excitement down there in that little spot on the globe, and so he didn't get to have it. But Chloe and Rob managed to pull it off. They had it at an undescribed location, which I know which it is, but and I didn't make it. I already had other plans for New Year's Eve. But tell us about your first night.
Well, smelled like freedom, and it was just a beautiful thing.
It's definitely
You
freedom.
know, I mean, it was the long realized dream of a lot of people in our state, that we would have this kind of thing that we could enjoy together and to share this moment together. It was so special, and it was a great way to ring out 2012, which is a historic year in Colorado, because that's the year that prohibition of marijuana ended, and to ring in 2013, which is going to be an extremely exciting year. I mean, so much is going to be happening. I won't even have time to smoke marijuana. I'm going to be so busy.
Oh, I'm sure you'll find time.
Yeah, maybe I'll make time.
It was amazing opening the club.
Well, I talked to Robert Twyler down in the Springs earlier today, and he runs Studio 64, Club 710, and originally it's kind of like Club 64. I hate to use these words, but a floating crap game. Basically, it moves from spot to spot, and they've been doing that for a while down there, kind of like our patient meet and greets here. How soon do you think before Denver has a permanent location?
Not long.
That is in development.
Yes, it is.
Which is our dream. Which we could, if we could get that, if we could get a foothold, then we're set.
And how do you think that the city and county are going to handle that?
Well, read about it in the Denver Post. I mean, they said they said it's legal. They said they had no comment. They said, well, let's defer to the task force, meaning the 64 task force, not the drug task force. Interesting, they both call them task forces, but you know, they really, and they have not contacted me. They know where I am. It's not like we were hiding this idea.
I mean, they didn't show up. We had no problems whatsoever. There were no fights. Everybody there was just in awe, even the reporters, because they were finally able to see that people are social and that they want to be together when they smoke.
But to play devil's advocate, can we suggest that this is the case because it is not legal at the same time it is legal, because we're still in this balancing point where we're trying to figure this out? I was at the Colorado Marijuana Task Force meeting in Golden this Monday, and you know, they were still talking about, hey, if 64 is going to go through and if we're going to really do this, are we going to adopt House Bill 10-1284 to regulate this, or are we going to adopt a state-controlled alcohol-like scenario, which has still not been decided? And of course, the task force is under pressure with a time constraint, because at the end of February, they are going to have to come up with a set of rules that they're going to have to agree upon, correct? This has happened before this agreement has happened. So first of all, thank you for putting yourself out there and pushing the envelope, because every one of us cannabis activists appreciate everything that you do. And we really appreciate both. Like, this is awesome. And is it safe to say you guys are the first, not in the state, but in the United States of America? Are you not the first cannabis lounge?
We might be the first in the United States of America.
But it's true that it still hasn't been, it still has not been.
And that's
100%
recreational
thumbs up, right?
lounge.
Are we still in the?
Well, you know, silence is consent. And I mean, as the country song says, you know, if my phone ain't ringing, I assume it still ain't you. And the city attorney has not called me. And nobody from the government is complaining about this, which is the ultimate irony. All the complaints are from so-called cannabis advocates saying we're moving too fast, we're doing too much, we're too aggressive. I mean, all of our complaints are from our own community. A prophet has no honor in his own country. But the government has complained exactly zero about this idea.
Really?
So that tells me it's legal, and that's all I need to know, the fact that they're silent about it.
Way to go.
Now you're right. There is some animosity and blackballing going on by the A64 group. In a CNN article, they basically, an anonymous person said, much of our success with Amendment 64 was making soccer moms comfortable. And then Betty Aldworth went on to say, we can best demonstrate regulation is a much safer approach to marijuana policy than prohibition through careful, swift creation of regulated businesses. Now that's kind of oxymoronic. I mean, if Swiss creation of regulated businesses. I mean, if it's a club and it's legal, that is a business.
Well, first of all, I mean, if you have a beef with our idea, don't be anonymous. Because if you're anonymous in my world, you have zero
Or if you're
credibility.
worried that it's going to,
So I'm not even going to
affect
address some anonymous person. I mean, if somebody has a genuine beef and wants to be devil's advocate and has the class to address me and, you know, use their real name, that's great. I'll respond. And then as far as, you know, Ms. Aldworth's comments, as a soccer dad myself.
Well, the anonymous
actually
one
has
was the
children.
soccer one. The other one about the
Oh, okay.
regulated businesses was better.
I am a parent, and I have 4 daughters who are beautiful. And if I thought that this club in any way hurt my daughters, there would be no way I'd be doing this. This club is the opposite. This club helps our society. This club gives people a safe place to use marijuana when they can't use it at home, maybe, because they have kids there. I mean, this club, it enhances public safety, and it also enhances freedom. I mean, this is about freedom, and there is nothing wrong in the United States of America with the pursuit of happiness. I mean, that is the reason that this country was founded. So, you know, if people think we're moving too fast, don't come to the club. Bottom line. Just go do something else, and you know, we'll have our fun and you go do your own thing. I mean, in America, we should focus on ourselves, and if you don't like what somebody else is doing, then do something else yourself. But don't condemn what people who are out there who are doing this. I mean, Chloe's been in this business for years, and she throws some great events, and she is a credit to this movement. And you know, if you don't like the events that we throw, just simply don't come, but don't snipe at us from an anonymous perch and talk to CNN like a, I'm sorry, I'll stop.
We definitely don't want to badmouth our industry because we all need each other. So if we want to be free together, and that's what we're talking about, we want to be able to come together as if we were, you know, listening to good music and be able to smoke the best marijuana that we've grown on our own or share with each other. Why can't we do that and enjoy each other's company and be free together and be who we are without being judged, especially within our own community, which is why I refuse to say anything, you know, negative back. I can understand the fear of, you know, as we're going through these laws, and I think that Rob and I have, you know, advocated enough for this industry that people know we're responsible and that we're going to encourage responsible behavior as well. But it's fun. I mean, let's make it fun. It doesn't always have to be so damn serious, you know?
Amen, sister.
Smoking weed, right? It should be fun.
I mean, it should, right. Like, you know.
If you can't laugh about it, then you're in trouble. But it is ironic that the things that John Suthers should be saying and isn't saying is coming from our own camp. I mean, it baffles me. I don't get it. But I'll have to contemplate this a little more, and maybe I'll figure it out.
Can I ask a technical question? Well, I've got time with a lawyer.
Sure.
Let's say Colorado adopts 1284 for Amendment 64 as regulation. Wow. There is a clause within there that says, and I remember protesting with you, Bill, on the Capitol building about this one specifically, where there's something in 1284 that says that you cannot smoke cannabis on the premises where cannabis is sold, and we're talking about dispensaries.
No medication on premises.
Right. So let's say you've got your club. Can I walk into your club and purchase cannabis at your club and use it on premises, or will I have to go to another retailer, purchase my cannabis, and then use your club as a safe haven to smoke it in a private setting?
Currently, the
second. She's like the second.
Currently, you can't purchase cannabis at Club 64.
Okay.
Eventually, we hope to move to a model of treating this like alcohol. The people that drafted Amendment 64, and I'm one of them, by the way, we created a campaign that said, we called it the Alcohol Marijuana Equalization Initiative.
Did that not pass in Denver
alcohol,
in 2005?
Well, no, Amendment 64 is alcohol marijuana equalization.
Right.
Well, last time I checked, there are these alcohol Club 64s where this is kind of a newsflash, but you get to walk into this place and you get to buy alcohol and you get to consume it on the premises. It's called a bar.
You get to say, hey, man, what are you doing? What do you like to drink?
And there are thousands of them all over the state of Colorado,
right.
And there is nothing wrong with a bar, and that's what we will have with Club 64 if the true intent of the Alcohol Marijuana Equalization Initiative is followed. Now, we'll see if there's the marijuana exception to logic, as there frequently is, but currently, no, you can't buy cannabis at our club. We don't offer it for sale. And that's unfortunate, but that is the current law. but eventually we'll move to a position where we can, and there will be, someday, I'm hoping, as many cannabis clubs as there are alcohol clubs in Colorado. That's our vision. We don't own this idea of a cannabis club. And in fact, truth be told, it's really not even that radical of an idea. I mean, we have all been part of dozens, if not hundreds, of cannabis clubs during the course of our lifetime, namely a bunch of adults.
Every Grateful Dead show.
A bunch of adults getting together and
Yeah.
using cannabis together. I mean, it's not a radical concept. It's been around for thousands of years, and it will be around for thousands of years. And so, you know, all we did was put a label on it and make it cool and sexy. But it's not a hugely
We just
radical
said,
idea.
this is the cool thing to do,
Yeah.
and we're all doing it. And so everybody said, well, we
And the
wanna-
sooner people realize that, the better off we'll be.
And it is. It's safer, 100% safer than alcohol, you know, in consumption. So it's, I mean, what are we so scared of? If we're going to regulate it like alcohol, then why would they want House Bill 1284? Unless they want to regulate it like
in
medical
all honesty,
marijuana.
because when 1284 came out, it was for medical marijuana, right? But there's
Right.
nothing in 1284 that's for a medical patient. If you read 1284, everything is about business and the state benefiting. Therefore, maybe I'm just assuming, but I assume that 1284 was really made for 64 because it has nothing to do with medical marijuana. It doesn't regulate medicine. It regulates how the sale of the medicine is conducted.
Okay.
Therefore, I would just imagine that might be the case.
Now, one of the things 1284 took away was social medicine in the dispensaries. Do you think with the advent of clubs that patients will once again be able to use at the dispensaries, that we might be able to fix that so people that live in HUD housing, the homeless, have a place to go to medicate? I mean, it's not all covered, but we as patients and recreational users should think about that. This is the end of our show. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. No? Okay. Take a break. We're taking a short break, and we'll be right back, folks.
Time distortion.
See you soon.
You ready?
No, he said
What's
Greg Raleigh, and I'm double mic'd in case one breaks. And you're watching WMMJ TV. Adios.
Have you heard of Coloradans for Cannabis Patient Rights? Do you know we are Colorado's only medical cannabis assistance program? With our team of sponsors, we offer a comprehensive sliding fee scale for medical cannabis patients on low and fixed incomes. For a list of sponsors, please visit us at www.c4cpr.org or leave a message at 719-271-8430. Also, join us on Facebook, Coloradans for Cannabis Patient Rights.
Okay, we're back, folks, and sorry for the little confusion. This is our premiere show, and we're definitely getting the bugs ironed out here. I'd like to thank Max Montrose for coming this evening and sharing his video. This is a turnaround for me and Max. Max used to run Medicinal Marijuana TV and got to do a show with me once. My best and closest confidant, Miss Chloe Villano. I really appreciate everything that you do for the industry, and I like your attitude about, even though they're blindsiding you, you're standing tall, and you're gonna hold steady. And Rob, you're the best freedom fighter out there, dude. I mean, I really love you, man. But
thanks, Mr. Cannabis.
Yeah, hey, Bill,
Yes.
thank you so much for having us on your show.
Yes,
and congratulations on a premier cannabis show in the state of Colorado. That's awesome. Both of you guys, congratulations on the first cannabis club, recreational, in the United States. So thank you, the three of you, for everything that you guys have done.
Thanks.
And to my audience, I'd like to thank you for tuning in tonight. This isn't our permanent time slot yet, so stay tuned to Facebook and also to Denver Open Media to see what time What Next will appear. It's What Next? You have 5 minutes. Oh, I have 5 minutes. So as we continue here, what would you like to talk about, guys? Let's go back to the social medicine thing. Do you know that in 1284 they cut out the social medicine where you could go in and vaporize it at your local dispensary, and that was great for people that lived in HUD housing, and for you know, for parents that couldn't medicate at home, just like your clubs, you know, and do you think that will come back? I mean, do you think we have a chance that if clubs spring up, that patients will once again be able to do social medicine, because it is a very healing experience to sit there and share and talk about your illnesses and what's going on.
That's such a good point, and not only a healing experience, and now since we're expanding beyond medical into recreational and the pursuit of happiness, you know, this is a political movement, and even though we won this huge battle overwhelmingly by 10 points with the voters of Colorado, the political movement still continues, and one of the essential aspects of any political movement is the ability to organize and associate in groups and trade ideas and trade our passion with each other. And 1284 took our movement and segregated us and shoved us into the corner and said, don't you dirty pot smokers get together. You go slink off to your corners in your homes. Don't dare getting together. Well, 1284 should be on the ash heap of history. And I think it will be. And I think 64 is going to reopen legal social marijuana use where people get together and we do it together. Not only do we enjoy each other's company, we trade ideas, we can organize. There is no limit.
Businesses.
There is no limit to what we can do when we get together and talk about ideas. And yes, sometimes those ideas are cannabis influenced, and yes, sometimes it does enhance your thinking, just like alcohol can do that. Alcohol can be a conversational lubricant, and that's a good thing, and there's nothing wrong with that.
But our club is mostly young professionals. It's not a bunch of gangsters who just, I mean, it's very, I think just the whole social stoner look that people see out there because they're used to seeing people who are, you know, if you're standing on the side of the street smoking, you obviously have a lot of guts. You don't really care what everybody thinks, though. Business people aren't just out there doing it, but there is a different world. I think people have kind of misconstrued with socially.
Well, the thing that I'm kind of afraid of is listening to the last task force meeting. There's no in between 1284 and a state-run system, and to me, I don't think it's possible for the state to run a marijuana system under the Controlled Substance Act of 1972. Therefore, I believe that they think that the only other idea that's in place is 1284 because we've practiced with it for a couple of years, and they've only got a month to go. So for them to come up with a brand new 64 regulation, like we're kind of hoping for, I don't know if it's going to happen. So I don't think they're going to do the state-run thing. I just have a feeling like 1284 might be the model for 64. I'm not saying it should be. I'm just having a feeling it might turn out that way.
It might be.
That may be what the legislature tries, but there's a couple reasons why it won't get away with it. Because
okay, we need to kind of wrap it up here.
All right.
Tonight we've been discussing the DUID bill, and I'd like to talk a little more about that before we close out. We need a lot of people to get organized. We need you to write your congressmen, to write your representatives and your state senators, and we need to quash this bill. It is very important. If you got time, find out when the hearings are. Come up and testify, you know, and make yourself heard. We need to end the DUID bill, and we need to put Senator Stephen King in Grand Junction in his place once and for all. Done deal. And how many minutes do I have?
I agree.
30 seconds. Okay, folks, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight to What's Next, and be sure to tune in next week to find out what's next. I'd like to thank Max, Chloe, and Robert again, and my name's Wayward Bill, and good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks for
Funding for tonight's show has been provided by Natural Remedies is Lodo's Dispensary, conveniently located at the corner of 16th and Market Street in downtown Denver. Parking is validated at the parking garage on 17th and Market.
Dixie Elixir and Edibles, the patient's choice in alternative MMJ treatment.
But the far from home once the visa card arrived. Words left unspoken, the family starts to cry. I remember the night was black as coal when I kissed my past goodbye. Nothing lasts forever, nothing is for sure. Oh, won't you try a taste of medicine? It might lead you to the cure. Big pebbles form when it rains. No matter where you go, there's a touch of you.